Men often find themselves blindsided by a culture that hates authentic masculinity, and many have given in and succumbed to the ever-evolving culture and woke society. But not us. We are the Remnant, faithful Catholic men from 3 different generations who reach through the radio to tackle current events that challenge our wills and empower the practice of the Catholic faith through thought-provoking discernment and prayer. So, if you're feeling overwhelmed and bombarded, it's time to turn your radio up and join us for The Remnant on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Remnant here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. My name's Bill Snyder. It's always great to be with you. As always, I'm joined by my friends Stephen Thomas and Ray Haywood. I want to remind you that The Remnant Show is sponsored by the Fraternity of St. Joseph Men's Group. You can visit fsjjourneyman.com to review the easy-to-follow resource documents and consider starting a chapter of the FSJ Men's Group in your own parish today. Ray, how are you this evening? It's great to be with you.
Yes, I'm doing really well. I'm excited for this special episode of The Remnant. We're going to be placing out into our public square this year's resource, Tool of Reach resource for the Fraternity of St. Joseph Men's Group. And that resource for this year is the St. Joseph 7-Day Family Devotional for Intentional Fatherhood. And I just want everybody to know that today is March 17th. It's St. Patrick's Day. This resource all came together within the last week, and we found it important to share this with all of you because our show airs on Saturday at 5 o'clock, and that happens to be the Feast of St. Joseph. So with that being said, Stephen's not with us tonight, but he is the person who did the informational YouTube video on this resource. So I'm going to put a little intent into placing this out for you, and then we're going to play that YouTube video. So this message is timeless. So if you're hearing this and you're thinking to yourself, well, this is from, March of 2022, maybe this doesn't have any, this is important. What we're doing here tonight is to intentionally prepare well future generations of Catholics. So stay with us. Another thing that you're not going to see in the video, but that I want to present to you before we watch it, is that what we're doing here at St. Thomas is we're putting these binders of the St. Joseph 7-Day Family Devotional underneath the table in our narthex that shares everything about what you guys are going to see. So for those men who find value in this and want to start their own chapter of the Fraternity of St. Joseph Men's Group, all they have to do is visit the resources and they'll see all of this, but just a little bit more. So with that being said, here is Stephen Thomas in that YouTube video.
Under the guidance of Father Matthew Codd, the Fraternity of St. Joseph Men's Group is placing this year's resource of the St. Joseph 7-Day Family Devotional out to our faith community on March 19th, 2022, the Solemnity Feast of St. Joseph. The St. Joseph 7-Day Family Devotional is designed to strengthen our young fathers in the gathering stage of life, through its invitation to pray as a family whilst fortifying them and their families in the guiding graces that are found in our Catholic faith. This devotional continues to support the family by encouraging these fathers to pray the included family binding prayer daily as they equip themselves to face the trials ahead with the shared awareness found within these materials. The devotional begins with a message to the father encouraging him to intentionally guide his family over the coming week, each day focusing on a particular virtue. Sunday is humility, Monday is obedience, Tuesday is discipline, Wednesday is prudence, Thursday is patience, Friday is suffering, and Saturday is charity. Each day's virtue is viewed through the events in the life of St. Joseph and is enriched through gifts of our Catholic faith explored. Each day closes with a supporting daily prayer. With allotted time for contemplation and discernment, this daily devotional will require less than 15 minutes of family intention to complete. Sunday starts the week off with the virtue of humility. This virtue is explored through apostolic succession and Jesus' command of, "Do this in memory of me," through the lives of our priests in their fiat, Latin for "let it be done," which is their openness to being the Eucharistic face of God, and through St. Joseph being the perfect model of fatherhood in his fiat to his vocation of being the foster father and guardian of the Son of God. The week continues as we look inward in our discernment moving forward. Friday, we explore suffering and how to suffer well. We explore the Paschal mystery, the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus. We view suffering through the lives of our saints and how, in times of need, we can turn to our patron saints, such as St. Joseph, patron of the Universal Church, to intercede for us in times of suffering. On Saturday, the devotional shares how our efforts are turned around as we begin to challenge ourselves to look outside of ourselves, as we explore the virtue of charity through our interaction in our vocations and our communities. We look at charity through the ownership of our being part of the mystical body of Christ, and how we are called to help each other along the path through selflessly sharing our God-given gifts of our time, treasure, and talents. We all ought to seek out and mirror the charitable heart of St. Joseph. We see our spiritual fathers as the primary conduit to connect our young fathers with the St. Joseph 7-Day Family Devotional. Our lay faithful parents and grandparents, and especially wives, are encouraged to place this year's resource in the hands of our young fathers by visiting the following sites: St. Thomas Aquinas' parish website, which is found at stacharlotte.com, or fsjjourneyman.com, the official website of the Men's Fraternity of St. Joseph. That's fsjjourneymen.com. This will be the third consecutive year that our FSJ men's group has placed a Tools of Reach out into our faith community. Our apostolate's mission is to assemble our spiritual fathers and deacons together with laymen to prepare our next generation of Catholic men in the just model of St. Joseph. Proceeding in this model, we aim to lead our families back to the objective truth rooted in the guiding graces of our sacraments and the sacrifice of Mass of our one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. The St. Joseph 7-Day Family Devotional aims to strengthen and fortify our young fathers and their families through its invitation to prayer. We believe that placement of this much-needed week-long devotional in our lay faithful community will have rippling effects that will cascade and transform not only in our faith community, but ultimately our public square. Wisdom shares with us that many young men find themselves lost in their faith during the gathering stage, only to find out later that, due to their misguided approach, these mistakes were at the expense of their family's peaceful resolve. Consideration towards our spiritual fathers giving out this resource to young fathers on special occasions in their family's faith journey is encouraged. Continued conversation on questions that our young fathers may have on the gifts of our faith that are intentionally placed within this devotional is the key to personal interaction needed to ignite the hearts of our young fathers in the gathering stage toward making a firm resolution of not only believing in, but also belonging to the body of Christ, our universal church. Spiritual fathers, brothers all, consider starting a chapter of or become a member of the Fraternity of St. Joseph Men's Group in your parish and unite with the band of brothers we are intentionally assembling in the name of St. Joseph. Step closer to yourself and to your family through this week-long devotional. We can't do this journey alone. Read for yourself the attached binding prayer and the band of brothers prayer. There is much to be accomplished in the name of St. Joseph in this New Covenant Third Millennium life of our one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. Strive to be a just man. Strive to be another Joseph.
Powerful, no? Stephen, a young voice. That was intentional in our placement that, this year's resources towards young fathers. And what we do is we encourage our parents, our grandparents, and especially our wives to place this into the hands of our young fathers. So that young voice is definitely intentional in its placement. So what do you think, Bill?
I think this is an amazing resource, and it's something that every Catholic parish should jump upon. Placing this out in the community as a devotional that you can follow with your family for a week to help strengthen your family. You know, we talk a lot about intention, right? We talk a lot about the intent, the intentional father, the intentional man, and when you pray this devotional, when you insert it into your life, right? And Ray, you just said it beautifully. Get grandmothers, get wives, get grandfathers, place it in to father's hands, because this is what's going to happen. It's going to strengthen it's just going to strengthen the family. I really like those prayers that are included, right? The Band of Brothers prayer, which is something that we all need. Men, the enemy's plan for men is to keep us in silos, right? The enemy, Satan, wants to divide us and keep us, doing our own little tasks and competing against one another. I'm better than you. You are better than me. This whole kind of, competition that's out there. That's his plan. God's plan is, no, I need you to come together, to stand up together against the enemy. And that's what these, prayers do. Of course, the binding prayer, setting the tone of every day. This is an amazing resource. And, if you're listening to this outside of the Carolina Catholic media area, right, like you're not in the region, I encourage you to continue to reach out to those websites, fsjjourneyman.com, and get these resources and start your own chapter, because this stuff is amazing, Ray.
Yes. So you mentioned the Band of Brothers prayer, and I would say that the binding prayer and the Band of Brothers prayer is what all of this devotional is built upon. So as it shares in the informational YouTube video, it states that on Sunday, we look at the Eucharistic face of God through our priests. And everything is, of course, through the eyes of St. Joseph. And then we travel through the week with the virtues and building upon a beauty of our one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. And on Friday, we explore suffering. And every father suffers. If a father feels as though if a father is not suffering, he's not doing his job right. Yeah. He's not leading his family right. So we look at suffering through the eyes of our saints, and we show how in times of trial, we could turn to our saints and we could grow through their strength and really become part of their witness. And then what happens is on Saturday, now all week, what we did was we looked inside of the father, inside of the family. Now on Saturday, we challenged that young family to look at charity, and charity is seen and shared with us, especially in our formative years, through community. Yeah. So it's so beautiful the way that this all gets, just placed out so well. And there's a couple of points I want to hit on so that our young fathers, and maybe somebody who's listening that has a young father in mind that can benefit from this resource, the gathering stage. So I want to explain that a little. When I was young, I stepped away from my faith. I was very adolescent in my faith. And until I'm with my wife, Natalie, since I'm 18, we got married at 21. What brought me back to my faith was pre-Cana. So, that mattered to us that we were going to get married in the sacrament. Now, a lot of people, they don't get married as young anymore. Let me give Stephen as an example. Look at Stephen. Stephen's a young man. He's getting married. He's with his fiance. They're working out arrangements for their wedding tonight. That's what they're doing. He's getting married young, I believe, because he's so close to his faith. That's what I believe in my heart. And, we've gone over in other episodes of the ReMENant show that social capital, our society is moved not by faith and family any longer, but it is moved by media and politics. And we need to get this type of resource and all the resources that are placed out from the fraternity into the hands of these young families so that we can prepare well the next generations of Catholics. Now, again, I'll go back. I got a little sidetracked. The gathering stage. When I was young, I wasn't close to my faith. I was doing physical world things. And fortunately for me, I was in a society that was still pretty much, moved by faith and family. So my parents could have a fallback stance for me that I would eventually get it. But for these young fathers, if they are not intentional in placing faith and family as what guides their families, this world is going to take from them the most beautiful thing that they're supposed to build. Yes, we're supposed to build careers. We're supposed to build relationships outside of the home. But the most important thing, and it's shared in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, is that the domestic church, our homes, is where we present our faith walk to our children.
Yeah, you're spot on, Ray. You're spot on. And, again, it's so simple, but it's so difficult, right? I always revisit that on radio programs because something we can do, right, when we're sitting here talking, is we can say these things. They seem so simple, right? Open up the 7-day devotional, pray the 7-day devotional. But that right there in itself is rather difficult, right? Like that, the action to take it and do it with intention is difficult. And it takes time. It takes effort amidst the busy schedules, right? Like we have to make time for our faith and make the intentional time to insert the faith into our family as men.
Our spiritual fathers are the key, bro.
Yeah.
If we don't, so like what you're sharing, right? If we had spiritual fathers that saw this resource for the good that it can, the fruit that it can bear, and they were intentional to bring a young father over and say, hey, an invitation. It was just earlier today that you and I were on a conversation. We were talking about something that had to do with my sons. And we were saying how, as fathers, we need to tell our families, they need to hear from us. If we're not decisive, if we're not intentional, then they don't follow. And we need intentional spiritual fathers to pick up this resource, to hand it to a father who's baptizing his first child, or he moves into the community from someplace else, and his son you see him at Mass on Sunday, and his child is getting First Communion. If this is a resource sitting in the back of the narthex at the end of the church, you turn around and you say to him, I want to speak to you after everybody's gone. He stands there and waits. While he's waiting, he's wondering, what is this? What does this priest want to talk to me about? You are putting wonder into this young father, and then you are intentional to bring him over and place this resource. This is powerful. I got tears in my eyes. It's powerful.
But you're right. And, it's the spiritual fathers empowering the natural fathers to live according to the gospel, right? I mean, that's just incredibly beautiful. Ray, I know we got to take a short break here on the Remnant, but when we come back, we're going to be chatting about our saint of the week, and that is St. Paul. Can't have a much bigger saint than St. Paul, right? So we'll be right back after these messages here on the video version of the Remnant for the first time. Right back.
"2022 is bringing many new and exciting changes to our Carolina Catholic apostolate, built to communicate how to better learn, love, and live our Catholic faith. We begin with our name change to Carolina Catholic Media. This reflects the expanded scope of Carolina Catholic Radio to include the development of our podcast, streaming, social media, YouTube, and direct marketing platforms. 2022 is a very important year for the Catholic Church. As a result, Carolina Catholic Media will feature more local news, information, and conversation to reflect what's happening now and how it impacts our local Catholic community. Throughout the year, Carolina Catholic Media will showcase our Catholic schools and homeschools, the Charlotte Diocese 50th anniversary, and the 2-year worldwide synod process that begins on the diocesan level. We encourage you to get involved, join us, and catch the spirit. The Carolina Catholic Media Apostolate is a 501c3 nonprofit. We are 100% funded by you. Please consider a donation, monthly tithe, or business sponsorship to support our mission and vision to spread the truth of Jesus Christ and our Catholic faith across the Carolinas. Thank you for discerning a role in our apostolate. May God bless you abundantly.
Today, many students go to college with numerous questions about their faith, yearning to know if the seed planted in them as a child is both true and practical. Using the miracle on the road to Emmaus as a model, young adult ministers conversed weekly for 3 months with college students about the most pressing questions they had about the Catholic faith. As they journeyed together virtually, something amazing happened. Doubts disappeared, fears faded, and Jesus revealed that He is still alive. Hearts Burning Within Us, the latest book from Patchwork Heart Ministry, is a result of that grace-infused conversation. It is the perfect back-to-school gift for recent high school graduates and current college students. Get your copy for them today at patchworkheart.org or by calling 424-704-3278. That's 424-704-3278.
Welcome back to The Remnant on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network.
Welcome back to the ReMENant show. So we're going to be speaking about St. Paul now. And I was intentional to write some notes, so I'm going to read them, okay? So if we look to St. Paul as a builder of community, we can easily see this in the letters he wrote to the early churches that we hear in the readings most Sundays. But if we were to go back and ask Saul, St. Paul, if he would have thought that he would have ever built up a band of brothers around the man they called Jesus, what do you think he would have replied to us? In our division, dissension, and discord, this is something that I'm quoting from the Fraternity of St. Joseph Men's Group Fraternity Prayer. If you take the time out to read it, talks about the remnant. That's the name of this show. This is all surrounding St. Joseph. If our division, dissension, and discord, we are a bunch of Sauls, allowing the stoning of the Stephens, our fallen away Catholics, to continue throughout salvation history. In our poor approach towards each other, are we enabling the detractors to become enemies of our church? We need to become like St. Paul. But how do we do this? The simple answer is through a selfless heart. That is truly the simple answer here. Jesus read the heart of Saul and knew his faith and love for his Father. Saul, like many of us, was guilty of being a man of his time. Think about all that was surrounding him at that time, and the beliefs that was so steeped in community, misguided by past generations, just like we are. Jesus knew a conversion was needed, and so he held Saul to task in his questioning of, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? The face of God is revealed to Saul in his blindness, and he experiences a full conversion. With 2,000 plus years of new covenant teachings, you would think that we would have known better by now, that the scales would have fallen from our eyes as well. But here we are, still blind, still disobedient. If we begin to accept that we cannot do this journey alone, that we can then take steps towards better preparing future generations of Catholics. This is what, we're not islands here. We're one body. we are truly one body in Christ. If an old faith, what I'm sharing with you is old hat. We just need to step closer to our faith in the awareness that conversion starts in our hearts. Charitable, selfless, forgiving, humble. Are these words written on our hearts? What do you think, Bill?
Oh, amazing, amazing, Ray. And I think it touched on so many things about the importance and beauty of the person of Paul and Saul, right? I mean, that conversion,
Yes.
that opening of the eyes. And, when I think about St. Paul in this context, I can't help but think about his letter to Philemon, right? I just can't help but think about this, because Paul is writing to Philemon, who's the owner of a slave. His name is Onesimus, right? And now Paul has met Onesimus in jail. They're in jail together. And listen to this line from St. Paul. It's just beautiful in this letter to Philemon. And by the way, it's one of the shortest letters in the book. It's one chapter, in the Bible. It's so easy to read and so short. So I encourage you to read the whole letter, but listen to just this one verse from it. It says, I appeal to you for my child Onesimus, whose father I have become in my imprisonment. And what he's saying is he's become a spiritual father to Onesimus. He has guided him in the way of faith.
Yes.
And he goes on to say, he says, I am sending him back to you, sending my very heart, meaning like, man, this guy is so close to me. I have become his spiritual father. I'm sending back him to you, that I would have been glad to keep him with me in order that he might serve me on behalf during my imprisonment for the gospel. But I prefer to do nothing without your consent, in order that your goodness might not be by compulsion, but of your own free will. So he's asking for the freedom of this slave, Onesimus, while he's in jail. And this is where we get that famous line, you hear it in many songs, right? That Onesimus, perhaps this is why he was parted from you for a while, that you might have him back forever, no longer a slave, but more than a slave, and as a beloved brother, especially to me, but how much more to you, both in the flesh and in the Lord. So here he's pleading for Onesimus the freedom, right? But he's also respecting the authority of his slave owner, right? And this is the person Paul became, right? Fighting for the least, especially after, someone has this incredible conversion. It removes the slavery. It removes the slavery to sin, right? We there's that famous song, no longer slaves, right? And we get it from this letter, but it's about, that's about being the band of brothers. That's about that's who St. Paul is.
Yes.
And of course he is so many other things. He, spreads the gospel all over, the early church, and, several different churches, and admonishes them. You can read all his letters, but I love that letter to Philemon, because it really is about one thing. And that is freeing slaves as the Lord frees them and brings them closer to his heart. So that's what it's all about for us, right? Ray, I'm sure you've got an awesome ReMENant challenge for us. I'll toss it back to you.
Absolutely. Stressing that our hearts are the way that we are measured is an important thing for men to understand. So before I get into my ReMENant, I just want to bring up the tools of reach aspect of the resources, and to make our listeners aware of what that means. So these resources, as our generations of Catholics have intentional spiritual fathers who place these tools out into their faith communities on or around St. Joseph's Day, when they hear these tools of reach that are available to them year after year in their formative years, when they step away from their faith, when they're adolescent and they step away, when they're trying to find their way back, they can have these resources to guide them. And if we have spiritual fathers that utilize these resources as a way of building that band of brothers to lead, man, oh man, we can make some change. The Eucharistic face of God. You know, the first day, the humility day of Sunday, we talk about the Eucharistic face of God, and it's in Jesus calling the apostles to be those first priests to all of us. Apostolic succession, the laying of hands. Our priests are saying masses from the hands of Jesus at the Last Supper. We need to recognize these things. So I hope spiritual fathers are listening along, and this can actually start to produce some good fruit. But for my ReMENant challenge, for us older men to understand the importance of handing on the deposit of faith to our younger brothers, for us to see value in the St. Joseph 7-Day Family Devotional for Intentional Fatherhood, and to recognize young families that can benefit from this year's resource. I challenge all of my brothers listening to put down the stones of our time. Put them down. We need to encourage our brothers to step closer to their faith and their families through sharing the guiding graces to be found in all of the tools of reach, resources that the Fraternity of St. Joseph Men's Group makes available. Placing authority back into the Eucharistic face of God that our spiritual fathers hold in our faith communities is the key. I'm going to say that again, is the key to building up a band of brothers to face the trials ahead. I encourage you all to strive to be just men. Another Joseph. What do you think, Bill?
I think you're always spot on. But, you know, this week it's the same kind of thing for me, right? My ReMENant challenge is, go out there and free slaves. They're the spiritual slave, those who are spiritually enslaved to their sin, right? Like those who are enslaved to their sin, go out and free them by becoming close to them. Like that letter of St. Paul says to Philemon, I am sending my own heart back to you. I'll never forget, somebody said, when you have kids, especially little kids, it's like taking your heart out and watching it run around. And I think quite a bit, I've got a 10-month-old now. He's starting to run around. I think quite about that. And I think about St. Paul's letter, right? I am sending my own heart back to you. So get close to somebody who has fallen away from the faith. Get spiritually close to them and free them from their sin through the power of Jesus Christ, like St. Paul, because we know that we can't free anybody from their sin, but Jesus can.
Amen.
Right? And through our friendship, Christ can work. And then send them back out. Send your heart back out into the world. St. Paul realized, you can't just hold on to this. You can't have this dude forever by your side. That's not what this, it's not what this is about. That's not the calling. The calling is for him to then go back and impact his slave owner. And then hopefully the two of them go out and change the world. So free the slave, offer it back to God. Follow that model of Philemon and read the letter of Philemon. It's fascinating. If you take it and read it. So, Ray, I know I appreciate you as always on this show. Thank you for joining me, and know that we're excited. I'm excited to be here on video with all of our followers. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being with me tonight, Ray.
Yes, awesome. Build up that band of brothers. Spiritual fathers, step closer to us. We need you. Absolutely.
Well, folks, until next time, from all of us here at the ReMENant and the Carolina Catholic Media Network, I'm Bill Snyder. May God bless you and your families.
Thank you for joining the ReMENant today. For more information about us, email theremnantshow@gmail.com. That's the REMENANT show@gmail.com.